Porter's fourth test of robust strategy is fit. And so when we discuss fit, we look at the activities in the value chain and how do those activities relate to each other. We see that competitive success does not depend on a single great core competence, with the exception perhaps of a patent. So if you have a patent for a breakthrough drug, for example, that could be your single great core competence. However, normally what competitive success depends on the connection and the combination of interdependent choices that reinforce each other. So your successful strategy depends on what that connected series of interdependent choices. So the value or the cost of one activity is affected by the way that other activities are performed. And activities, again, must be consistent with the firm's value proposition. So when those activities are not consistent, then they have a tendency to cancel themselves out. We will look later on about one of the examples was Zara, for example. And so looking at what is the speed that Zara can change its lineup of clothes. Zara is the clothing, the Spanish clothing store. Inditex, I believe, is the actual name of the parent company, but looking at that speed. And so when they look at their value chain, why is their production in-house? Why is it done in Spain, not done someplace else like India or Bangladesh or China? It's because that speed that is required, that is one of their core competencies. Core competencies is how quickly can they get those new lines ready. So our activities should reinforce each other. And so fit means that the whole matters more than any of the individual parts. And so fit amplifies the competitive advantage by raising the value or lowering the cost, and it makes competitive advantage more sustainable because fit does what? It lowers the odds that your strategy can be copied. Remember, that is the name of the game. You do not want your rivals to be able to copy your process or to copy your product. Does everyone know, we mentioned IKEA earlier. Does everyone know that IKEA is selling their furniture in flat packs? Yeah, of course they do. Of course they do. Everybody knows that. However, what can IKEA's competitors not do? They cannot successfully sell in flat packs and as well sell assembled furniture and still compete with IKEA because their costs are too high. So it's not that they don't know what's going on. However, they cannot compete due to the trade-offs, due to the fit of the various pieces of the value chain. So if the tailored value chain is the first line of defense against rival, what are the second and the third lines of defense? Those second and third lines of defense are trade-offs and they are fit. And then finally, we have what? We have continuity as our last test of robust strategy. So it takes time to do what? It takes time to develop that competitive advantage. It takes time to understand the value that your firm is creating and understand how your firm is creating that value. It takes time to do what? To tailor that value chain because you have starts and stops. You have errors that you are going to correct. It takes time for you to do what? To develop those necessary trade-offs. It takes time for the pieces of your value chain to actually fit together. So continuity helps suppliers and distribution channels align and tailor their own value propositions and their own value chain, which does what? Which contributes to your firm's competitive advantage. And so how does that happen? How are you helping them to increase their own competitive advantage? How can you do that? With a long-term contract. And what does that long-term contract do? Is it helps to build confidence in your firm that you are making that purchase, and it allows you to build that relationship because it allows the the channel or the supplier to create and to modify its own value chain and to look at how are they going to be able to invest more money in their raw materials, but as well in their research and development, knowing that you do have that long-term contract and you are going to be spending X amount of money at X periodic times. So that continuity helps to do what? Helps to build the relationship between the channels and with the suppliers. And do not forget that in business, it is all about relationships. So that continuity helps your firm to improve your individual activities in your value chain, but as well as in your suppliers, as in your channels value chain as well. Also, what do we end up doing? We end up paying a higher price when there are frequent changes in strategy. How many times have you heard someone say, oh yes, that's the flavor of the month, that the company starts a particular initiative and then 6 months later changes that initiative completely, goes in a different direction. And so you've lost what? You've lost that money, that opportunity cost now is huge, because you could have done something else. Now you are going through, you're choosing a different tactic, and you've lost that amount of money, and you have done what? You are destroying, you are eroding that confidence, that relationship that you have with whom? With your own employees, as well as whom you have, the ones that you have with your suppliers and your channels. So those are the 5 tests of robust strategy. They are looking at the unique value proposition for your customer. They are looking at, do you have a tailored value chain? Does your value chain fit together? And then as well, have you devoted enough time for your strategy to actually take place?